Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to LCK Spring 2020. I'm Atlas, joined by Counterfeit LS, as we move into a game number 2 between Afreeca and Griffin.
Yep, here is me, Counterfeit LS. And, yeah, game number 1 was, I don't know, like, after the early to mid-game when Afreeca made it clear that they were going to absolutely dunk on Griffin that game, we went into this kind of extended lull state. There were a lot of great engages, though, from the side of Afreeca. The fact was, though, that they were so far ahead that it was just like a foregone conclusion that we already knew what was going to happen. So we did make it to the end of that game number 1. The question is Griffin just going to flop over and, you know, not do much here in game 2? Or can they go up against the might, which is Jelly, as he does pick up the player of the game here for his amazing Alistair in game 1.
It was extraordinary. Really, really good stuff. Only his second player of the game so far this year, but certainly a very well-deserved one, as every single play was started off by Jelly. Certainly keen with his 100% kill contribution, showing that Afreeca understood exactly how their composition is supposed to play out. Everything just worked. Really, really good stuff. As these equalizers, like you were talking about, Griffin just taking a walk down a red carpet they definitely did not want to be at. And just everything working out here for Afreeca. I don't know whether they'll be allowed to get a similar composition in game number 2. However, I feel like they have found the trump card to Griffin, which is ban Ornn.
Make sword play something that's not Ornn. It was definitely a little bit sad. He got bullied in the early game as well. It's hard for him going up against Keen. I mean, Keen is obviously just a much better player at this point in time. And he was able to flex those muscles as 9 out of 9 did vote for Jelly. Thankfully, nobody was a sinner this time around and vote for someone else like a Rumble. That would not have been correct.
Although, slightly understandable. 100% kill contribution as a top laner is pretty damn good. But I wholeheartedly agree that the cow deserved absolutely 100% this player of the game. And thankfully, everyone agrees. 9 out of 9. Nice stuff. So now we have to go into game number 2 and see whether Afreeca can do it all again. Because something that Afreeca has always been synonymous with is inconsistency. It's just a way of the organization. Of course, they do have players absolutely everywhere. I mean, it feels like every team has like a former Afreeca Freecs player or 3, you know? KT, for example, Kuro aiming in Tucson. Griffin have Yukal, of course. I mean, even the LCK broadcast has Lyra, who was formerly on the Afreeca Freecs as their jungler years ago. So they've spread their players far and wide.
They're great at finding talent.
Indeed. And in fact,
areas.
I'm pretty sure JD, which is, I believe, where Kuro was last year, kind of wished that he'd come back. I don't think that they've been having as much success without good old Kuro there, but we'll see whether Kuro is going to be able to perform tomorrow, as you and LS will have that telecom war between KT and T1 as our second match of that day. First one being Darmon versus Dragon X. It's going to be like the most Pog day that you have ever seen in your lives. Going to be absolutely fantastic stuff, but I digress. I get ahead of myself as we are moving into a game number 2 between Griffin and Afreeca. And remember, this is basically Griffin's life on the line. They need to win this series, otherwise it's looking almost doomed for them to be in that promotion tournament.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of already just buy that ticket, essentially, if they do lose this game. And they will have to turn it around in a big way. They will be on blue side, so perhaps they can pick ban a little bit differently from what they did the last time, perhaps not getting baited into picking the Varus. I feel like it was Afreeca's cool draft that really just caught them by surprise. And once the early game started to tip into Afreeca's favor, Griffin did just look totally lost. So perhaps this time they can kind of regroup, gather themselves, go for a little bit different of a draft, perhaps even get Ornn, and see where it does go from there. Obviously favoring Afreeca going into game number 2, but it is not over yet.
No, it is not. Not until the fat lady sings. But here we are. She might start warming up her vocal cords here during this draft phase, because this is largely where we're going to figure out whether Griffin have their trump card or not. No subs, interestingly enough. I was expecting Hoya to come in potentially, or Tara, of course, who feels a lot more stable than Sword at the moment. The Azir going to be the first ban on the red side as the Elise continues to be taken away from Spirit. Now Griffin wondering what to do next. Afreeca not going to have as much ban flexibility on the red side, so maybe the Ornn ban doesn't come in, or maybe they just force it right here and then try to get themselves some more comfort picks. As you can see, the Silas ban means that Griffin just want to first pick Ornn. And so Afreeca should just ban it.
Yep, just ban it. If they don't ban it, I would be extremely surprised.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to be all shocked Pikachu when they lose to Ornn too. Like, this is, it's really straightforward and obvious, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
Of course, they are going to have to leave open, you know, some big-time 80 carries if they do ban the Ornn, but I think it's worth it, to be honest.
I mean, now Afreeca get to guarantee trade between Senna or Kalista, so you can imagine, and the Varus, of course, if they'd like to go down that path. So I think Griffin banning Ornn here is without any downside. And they're going to ban Taric, so I have absolutely no idea what they're thinking. This is pretty ridiculous. Will mean that Set is available as well. This is likely to go to Irove. And are Afreeca just going to lock in the Ornn themselves? Because I'd love it if they did. In fact, Ornn Kalista, just do it. It sounds like a great pick.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all. And you could imagine that with the Ornn in the composition, that's another way you can build around a hardcore engage composition if Griffin do respond with the Varus again. See what happens here. The Kalista is going to be picked up.
Yep, Trundle should come in next, I assume, but I'd love Afreeca to pick away the Ornn. This feels like that's exactly what Griffin were drafting for in the beginning, but Trundle feels like he's going to be the prize that Afreeca do want to lay their hands on. That would otherwise be exactly what Tarzan was going to go for, and of course Trundle soft counters the Ornn, as building tanky stats against Subjugate feels real bad. So Tarzan, I assume he's going to lock away the Ornn. We're going to put the Set in the 80 carry position. And honestly, Senna Ornn right here seems pretty good, because then you get the Senna Set lane, which actually is a good way of giving Irove even more to do. But it is going to be the Rek'Sai. And Yukal is going to take away the 80 carry slot here for Griffin. So Kai'Sa Set once again. Griffin love this lane. And they are once again heading there, and they're not going to be picking up the Ornn. So we thought it was a gigantic mistake. However, Griffin didn't even pick it, so never mind.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting that Griffin wouldn't prioritize it at all, given their success. I suppose they say to themselves, well, it's not because Ornn had good, or Sword had good games on Ornn. It's just because we played well as a team or something like that. So they don't prioritize it. It does go the way of Afreeca. I don't know why Kai'Sa really would take that much more priority over an Ornn at this point in time. To be perfectly frank, you know, it's not like Kai'Sa was going to get banned or something like that. You know, like it's you could have saved it for the 4th or 5th pick, and as far as I know, I don't think it's that fantastic into Kalista either. So. Maybe it's just Viper unhappy with the Varus game, and he's like, give me Kai'Sa. I need to carry. This is how I'm going to do it. That's the only thing I can really think of, to be honest, Alice.
Yeah, I think this draft has certainly been a little bit wonky from Griffin's side. Afreeca sort of got handed 3 pretty key picks, to be honest, in this particular matchup. So they're going to be feeling very good about it. Likely that All In is going to be playing the Ornn, but Jelly could also play it. I wouldn't mind Ornn Kalista, bottom side of the map. Gives Ornn a whole lot of things to do, but also might be a waste of talent, as you are unable to get to the level range to get your ornaments out. So likely to be heading into a solo lane. As are the Zoe and the LeBlanc both banned away. The Azir was already taken off the board, so the 3 key picks in the mid lane not going to be there. As Griffin look towards their final ban here. See what it is going to be. Likely aiming towards Keen. That is continuing to be where they're considering, which means that they are onto us, understanding that All In will most likely be piloting this Ornn.
Yeah, and It is kind of interesting considering that both of those picks are pretty good into the set. So maybe we will be seeing Sword hop onto that pick, and it will not be put over to Irove. But from what I can remember, Irove was one of our main support set players.
He is the set level 1 flasher every single time.
Yeah.
We do have top lane Kalista, most likely, as there is Senna locked in here for Mystic. And this will mean that we most likely have the Ornn bottom lane as well.
Could also be support Senna.
That is true. That is true.
Alongside the Kalista.
Doesn't synergize as well with Fate's Call, though.
Yeah, that is a little bit weird. And, you know, the Kalista is going to be pretty good into the set, you'd have to imagine.
Well, it looks like we are considering putting the set towards the top side of the map. Or a Nautilus in the mid lane. We're very flexible on Griffin's side. Very, very flexible. Jelly, just do it. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. This will be a really fun draft if Afreeca lock this in. And this will just mean that everyone on Afreeca just locked in their own champions.
Yeah.
Which would be hilarious.
Or
not. We could have all sorts of weird stuff. No, they are just going to lock in all their own champions. No worries. So that is going to be Ornn in the mid lane. We've got Kalista top and the Trundle in the jungle with the old Senna Taumkench towards the bottom lane. A combination that we've seen very, very often. As Griffin are swapping around their champions between Sword and Yukal, and we'll see what they decide to stop on at 20 seconds in this game. Certainly a lot of different ways they can move things around. In fact, Rumble, Nautilus, and Set can all go mid, top, or support. So actually, they could just all be anywhere. And now that we tick towards 20 seconds, we do get that last-minute swap of Yukal on the Set and Sword on the Rumble on the top side. Theoretically, like in my mind, I'd say that Sword is probably more of the Rumble player. I haven't really enjoyed much of what Sword's been able to do on the set so far. Yeah. So this does make the most sense as well in my mind.
Would have to agree. And maybe after game 1, he's like, man, that Rumble champion is really OP. I want to play it too.
Hey, it's the donkey video back again. Yeah, well, you know, Rumble is the best right now.
Yeah. Well, he certainly looked good in game number 1. We'll give him that. But just looking at the draft, I think you and I can kind of settle on the fact that Afreeca got a pretty nice draft across the board. Looking pretty nice here, Atlas.
Absolutely. This is going to be the first game for Sword on Rumble so far this season. Untara, though, is 100% win rate so far on the champions. So surprising that we didn't see any substitutions, but we'll see what Griffin have up their sleeve as we move into game number 2 right here. It is, you know, a front-to-back composition here for Griffin that do have a lot more teamfight modes. Tarzan can get around the jungle very effectively, but I love what Afreeca have put together with this particular comp, having the double 80 carriers. Now, Keen is going to wander into the enemy team, and Irove is going to just botch that, to be perfectly honest. Not going to be able to find anything, even after trading flashes there with Keen. But Keen able to get himself out of the way and not going to get hit by the concussive blows.
Yeah, smart by Keen to flash right away, knowing that the Nautilus would have just locked him down. And yeah, the hook going wide was a bit unfortunate for sure. If you get the flash down and the kill down onto the Kalista, that's one way to get ahead and help Sword in that lane. But we'll see if Tarzan can put some pressure up there. It does mean that Keen is not going to be as aggressive as he would like to be originally, just because he's almost forced to play safe unless he gets himself in a risky position.
Yep. And Kane now just keeping his eye out here in the jungle. Has taken himself the Hail of Blades for those trading powers up against Sword. But if he's hit by harpoons, he's still going to take a lot of damage from the Rumble. So we'll see whether Keen can hop mad and get himself out of the way, because now with his flash down, he does find himself a little bit vulnerable. As the Set versus Ornn matchup was never Set favored, by the way, guys. In theory, if you play well on the Ornn, as our friend LS has said many times. Am I right, LS?
Yes. It's me, LS, a.k.a. Lucky Snack. And I would say yes, absolutely, the Ornn wins every single matchup in the game right now. So,
what would you define his?
Wrong.
What's his role, Ornn?
Well, I don't have the list right in front of me. Of course, it is a very extended and lengthy list. But generally, my co-caster Valdez, Brendan Bronze 5 Valdez, he likes to describe him as a tank bruiser mage assassin. And yeah, that's essentially what he is.
Wasn't it like tank bruiser mage assassin warlock priest monk
again,
death knight?
Remember I said there's an extended list, but
okay, you're not going to the extended list
in front of me right now because.
Well, Dredgeline going to come in. Tarzan finds the knock-up here onto Jelly, who eats his grey health. He should be all right. Piercing Darkness comes down to keep him alive. Irov going to tank up a few extra turret shots that he would like to. And Tarzan is going to be able to pick up a few summoner spells, 3, in fact, in trade for his flash alongside Irov's Ignite. So definitely a trade that worked out well for Griffin on the bottom side and will even out the summoner spells very nicely here as we move further forward in this lane.
Yeah, nice little aggressive gank there at level 3 from Tarzan. Just clearing out the majority of his jungle except the Raptors, as, yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate.
That's a very impatient
take that down. Yeah. He's going to be able to take that down eventually, as you see Spirit is not getting anywhere near his blue buff right now after his bot lane did have to go back. Top lane going about as we expected. The Kalista, of course, is going to have priority there. And with Tarzan not around, that's when you know he'll be able to get aggressive.
Facebreaker comes in, all in, searing charges to get himself out of the way. Yukal runs on over. Haymaker not going to get any kill threat onto All In, who just continues walking up topside. Flash from All In into the Baron Pit. But he's not out of the woods just yet. Keen comes on over, doesn't have Fate's Call or anything like that, nor is he paired with the Ornn, but Ornn's just going to go for a merry jaunt towards the top side, and he is going to live.
Yeah, I was surprised he actually got out of that. I thought maybe the tunnel would get out in time, but he actually could have just flashed away instead of into the Baron Pit. That almost killed him, which is kind of why I was laughing at the end of the day there. But he gets away with his life, and of course, results-based analysis is what would tilt LS the most. So, great play there from All In, of course, to
Phenomenal
get away
work.
from that one. Yeah,
just demonstrating the power of the champion right there. I think that was part of his rogue class, you know, being all stealthy and whatnot.
and mage. I mean, he blinked away, right? So
that's true.
It's part of the reason.
You can see Mystic and Jelly demonstrating how frustrating the Tahm Senna lane is. Pretty difficult to get an engagement on them, even if you are a Nautilus who has a bevy of CC options. Tarzan moving towards the top side. Keen going to move on out, but that's the flash from Sword. They know that Keen doesn't have his available, and the harpoon's landed. That is going to mean that Sword grabs the first blood against Keen. And that flash just came off cooldown right about now.
Yeah. Great timing, to be honest. They have the exact timing, of course, on the flash, all these pro players. So they say, let's try to visit the top lane sometime before then, and they find a window there to pull it off. And I guess Keen, with it coming up soon, he was like, well, I'll probably be fine until then. But little did he know he was being collapsed on, as now Spirit is trying to get this dragon down. And the movement out of the bottom lane is actually going to tip them off onto this, as the smite was really close, to be honest.
Yep, Piercing Darkness comes in. Dredgeline actually avoided there by a great devour from Jelly, but that might mean the end of his life, and it does. So Afreeca do manage to pick up the Drake, but another kill goes to Griffin.
Yeah, that it does. Not the cleanest early game here from Afreeca, and Griffin are coming at them real fast. As I mentioned, they were able to kind of regroup and decide, you know, how are we going to take out this Afreeca team? And they're looking much better. Tarzan very active on the map. He was able to pick up that gank, go right down to the bottom side, and be able to scout out that Drake and pick up the extra kill. So nice little plays from them. It is going to be the Infernal Drake going over to Afreeca, but not the hugest steal at this point in time. As we'll take a look at the replay here. Just flashed on by Sword. Flash difference on the top side. If the harpoon misses, maybe he gets out alive. but even then, close.
Oh yeah, 100%. I really like the devour there from Jelly, but Yukal flashing on over to try and get himself in there and didn't even use the showstopper or anything like that. So a lot invested to grab that second kill here for Griffin, but the objective had already gone down. So not end of the world yet for Afreeca, but if this snowball continues, could certainly be dangerous times. I have a feeling that actually, despite First Blood, Keen is probably still ahead in gold in comparison to Sword, who has been shut out from this lane basically entirely. But he does have a Seeker's Arm Guard, so it's going to get better as long as he can stack it by killing minions. You need to be able to do that in order for that to happen. As Jelly's just farming out this bottom lane. He's 9 CS behind Viper, which is going to be the comparison that we're going to have in this game. But Viper now with this minion wave to eat up, he is going to be able to extend his lead just a little bit.
Yeah, as the rotation is going to come in here from the side of Afreeca, they have bought into this playbook, the one that LS so deeply hates. The rotation up. Because, of course, the AD carry in the bottom side gets a bunch of that free solo XP with no pressure at all. He's going to TP now, though, as they're coming in here to try to fight.
Oh, the pillar just says no, as there's the equalizer. It has to be walked on here by all of Afreeca. Fate's Call comes out to center, already removed from this fight, as that's a great ulti out of the Ornn. The face stroke breaker onto 4, though, as Keen is going to bite the dust. All in says, I am done with this team fight. And he is going to get out, but the rest of his team not going to be so lucky.
Well, if you're going to group up like that for the equalizer and the facebreaker, you are not going to have a good time, as Yukal's able to go in there and show the power of the set. And not only that, this equalizer was actually fantastic from Sword. Just look at how he angles it. It hits multiple members, but it also funnels them into the center because you can't run up and avoid it. So you have to run down straight into your allies who are able to just get in here, group them all up.
That facebreaker, man, that was very cathartic.
Really got to hand it to Sword and Yukal for making that engage happen. The two of them putting 2 and 2 together, or I suppose in this case 1 and 1 together. I mean, that facebreaker was definitely putting 2 and 2 together. Yeah, that's precisely what that was. Putting
so really good stuff.
4 faces in the center there.
As once again, Keen finds himself without his flash. This Afreeca composition is not too phased by early advantages for the opponent. Of course, this is more of a scaling type comp. But if they let this game fall further out of their hands, it's not like Griffin don't have modes as this game continues. Viper is going to be that hyper carry that they're looking for, and Yukal is going to hold on to relevance for a long time in this game. Yes, Tarzan and Sword are theoretically going to fall off as this game goes on, but I mean, Sword will be like an anti-heal bot, which will be fantastic actually against the composition that Afreeca has for themselves, against Tahm Kench, Mystic, getting all of those heals over with the Piercing Darkness. And basically everything, to be perfectly honest. As there's the equalizer just to get rid of this minion wave. Keen will be able to lock down that turret plate, as Spirit does have Shelly available as well. And it's looking like he wants to give this to Keen's lane here on the top side, as Sword desperate to stick around, but he doesn't have a second charge of this equalizer. So I think he is going to have to move away. As speaking of moving away, Jelly and Mystic also no right to be here on the bottom side, as Yukal had moved on in. Sword going to vacate the area. And Shelly should allow them to get that first turret blood. But you can see Griffin on the bottom side of the map will be able to do the same thing. No knock up there for All In. And Cloud Drake going to be taken here by Griffin. You could imagine that Afreeca are probably okay with it, as Shelly's going to get a second charge. And potentially, Afreeca might be able to lock down this turret as well. And that would actually definitely even out the trade as far as giving away that bot lane tempo is concerned. So there's that eco turret to be taken, and Afreeca well and truly back in at only 1,000 gold behind, as it's going to be an Ocean Soul this game.
Yeah, if it were a different Drake there, like literally anything else that wasn't Cloud, perhaps it would have been a little bit better for Griffin. But Afreeca, with that play, they're actually able to catch up pretty nicely on the gold. You can see they're about 2,000 behind. Now they're less than 1,000 with that play, just picking up the 2 Drakes, but they are going to be collapsed upon here.
Yep, there's the knock-up onto Spirit. Keen will be able to jump over the wall, but they immediately get rid of Tarzan, and the Fate's Call is going to be utilized. Sword having to get out of there. And you could see that Spirit, he wanted nothing to do with this. Keen has a long way that he can run. There's no turret here to be worried about. As Keen walks down that red carpet, Sword realizes that he can't chase. Maybe an overly ambitious ultimate, and now the gold is in Afreeca's favor.
And, yeah, just like that, it's turned right on its head. Honestly, I need to rewatch that burst onto Tarzan because...
That was a big pop.
The Rek'Sai, you know, going Warrior Enchant, I don't think he had the Ruby Crystal at this point. He just disappeared. Like, look at this damage. What?
Oh my god.
Like, what?
That was like Rend Chomp Dead. It was like Pierce
insane.
Rend Chomp Dead. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, you know, obviously a bunch of sticks. I wouldn't even call it a lot. It was like 3?
Yeah, few
maybe
sticks.
4? It's not even a bundle at that point. And, yeah, I mean, Spirit, he's going to chomp, but he has Cinderhulk. Like, it's not like, you know, it's not like he's got big damage, right? And literally nobody was able to help him. I mean, Sword was there. He wasn't able to finish off the kill. Of course, you know, in the jungle like that, you're not really going to get a efficient equalizer, so he was holding on to that one, I think, smartly for that point in time.
And also...
just like that, it's turned around.
Yeah, now you've got Keen, who has his Blade of the Ruin King completed. He's even decided to go for the Ninja Tabi, fearing Tarzan more than Sword. I was actually, like, you don't necessarily build the Merc Treads against Rumble just because he doesn't have hard CC, so you're not looking for tenacity. In fact, some of the best boots that you can buy against Rumble are the Swiftness boots to negate slow potential out of the Harpoons, especially. But... he's decided to go Ninja Tabi so he can stop the Hail of Blades Rek'Sai from wrecking his day, and is instead probably going to build towards something like a Maw of Malmortius in this game to get that Lifeline passive as well as that Hex Drinker effect. So I actually really like what Keen's decided to do here, just with the lack of value that you'll get out of Tenacity in this particular matchup. Not to mention just the lack of power of it against this composition in general, because Iroh, he has 1 stun, otherwise it's all knockups. Same can be said for Yukal. It's all displacement, knock-up type abilities. Tarzan's the same case, and Sword's just slows. So I really do like what Keen's decided to do here with that boots choice.
And the Ocean Soul is going to be quite good for both of these sides. I think both of them, it feels like pretty much any competition would prefer Ocean Soul over anything else on this. You know, other than some edge cases, just because Ocean Soul is so overtuned right now.
Yeah.
And with Afreeca now somehow picking up the lead, they're not exactly in the lead on the gold graph just yet, but it feels that way with just how strong Keen looks on that pick. So we'll see if they can win a fight here around the dragon. You know, there still is a chance for Griffin to come back in this one if we have another team fight like we had at the beginning of the game that got them ahead. So
yeah,
they will absolutely be looking for that one here in this upcoming 1 minute away team fight.
I find it really interesting that All In's decided to pick up a Glacial Shroud. I really hope that doesn't turn into an Iceborne Gauntlet, because it's not what you want against this combo. I think that the Abyssal Mask is just so much more valuable, especially because of how it upgrades. It does give you way more stats that you want, as LS will tell you many, many times. Isn't that right, LS? Have I got my analysis right? Nailed
yes,
it?
you are correct.
All right, good
this
stuff.
This is
good
LS
stuff.
here. And you are correct.
Nice.
I would always agree with my fellow playboy. Oh, wait. I mean my fellow co-caster.
Perfect,
Yeah.
thank you. Good save, good save. As congratulations to the Korean LCK broadcast. They made it onto Korean TV.
They're famous.
Which is super cool. That's exciting stuff. Not sure why I'm talking about it right now, but we are in a little bit of a lull state, as 500 gold is the lead here for Griffin.
Griffin sent their jungler top instead of fighting over the ocean green. That's interesting.
That is a decision that can be made.
That is just so bizarre.
It's very perplexing, isn't it, LS? Would you say that it's
so peculiar? I don't even know what to say about it, because they're going to, they'll get this tier 1 turret that they were going to get anyway. And Ornn could have froze that wave, by the way, but he's not going to, because we love ping pong.
Damn, you're good at this.
And they just wasted their time up there, to be honest. I mean, it's really not gaining them much at all. And they just give away that Ocean Drake. Yes, I know the individual Ocean Drakes aren't that amazing, but it's just one step closer to the soul that you're essentially just giving away. So, definitely
and also, like,
an interesting choice.
Yeah, and I actually think Ocean Soul is really valuable against this Griffin comp as well that wants to dive on you. And I guess they do have a fair bit of burst option, especially as far as Viper is concerned, but after that initial salvo and when the equalizer does go down, they don't have as much available to them. And Mystic will be able to provide a lot of value. As you can see, Sword building as fast as he can towards Morellonomicon. Certainly going to have a heightened sense of value here in this particular game. Most definitely. I very much like the choice this time around. Didn't like it so much in game number 1, but that's okay. We still build them, and we get some health from it. You know, all that sort of stuff. Slot efficiency is, you know, something. You like that stat? You like slot efficiency? You're a fan?
Yeah, it's my favorite stat.
It does allow you to pick up more control wards, which you can imagine analysts enjoy.
Yes.
All about that macro game.
You would be able to hold anyway.
Hey,
even if you didn't complete the Morellonomicon. Yeah, just waiting here, playing a little bit of ping pong. Of course, we have entered a little bit of a lull state at this point, and what a better chance than to go after Sword.
That's an equalizer. Tarzan looks for the knockup, doesn't quite get it, as there's the Dawning Shadow. Tarzan goes into his ultimate. Should be a trade back of the kill, as there's the ulti out of the Ornn from downtown, in fact, is now Mystic looking to try and keep himself alive. Iroh does the same thing, as there's the Killer Instinct. Jelly going to devour Mystic to keep him alive, and in the end, it is going to be a 1-for-1 trade, top for jungle.
Yeah, the Griffin are able to stabilize as a team here in the mid lane. There's really no wave clear at all for Griffin, so they're just going to actually move in and try to dive here.
Yeah, Facebreaker onto Jelly. He's going to eat the Grey Health, but rather early. He's still just wandering out of this one as Spirit looking to try and collapse in. Teleport comes down as Keen has just respawned. He's looking to try and collapse. And remember, Fate's Call is still... No, it's not available just yet. There's a good pillar. That's going to get the flash out from Iroh, who buffers the dredge line very nicely. And that's going to get him to safety. But now Afreeca find themselves in a pushing position. The health bar's not quite low enough for them to go for anything. And I tell you what, Yukal's pretty damn good at this set. He is certainly putting his team on his back right now.
Yep, that's one way to do it, you know. Just get the player who's actually performing to get on that carry champion that can make all the difference. Keen here walks on a ward and then realizes, wait, there's an extra guy. They thought it was a 2-on-1, but they had a lack of vision, which leads to his death. Dawning Shadows nearly saves him there, as Spirit wanted to steal that kill away from the Ornn. And this could have been a lot worse for Afreeca. They could have lost Mystic. They absolutely could have dogged down Jelly, which they did eventually do, by the way, here in the mid lane. And still, Griffin, even though it was a 1-for-1 in the trade for champion kills, they were able to get an extra one on the backside, plus a little bit of extra damage here. Everybody does get out alive with no real harm. Foul, Iroh, nice job on the buffering. And even if one team had gotten pretty far ahead of the other one, there was still no Ocean Drake to take. There was the Baron, but it was... Actually, no, I don't even know if there was the Baron. It may have just been spawning at that time, as it is just over 21 minutes now.
Not a lot to fight for, you're exactly right. As Sword did have a decent ultimate to start off that fight as well. Credit where credit's due, absolutely. Yeah. And he's sitting on 2-0-5 right now. Very, very strong scoreline here for the Rumble. Kill participation for Rumble seems to be the aim of the game here as far as our blue side teams tonight.
He looks great on the Rumble. Really got to hand it to him. You know, we were calling him kind of that Ornn one trick, but he's looked much better here on the Rumble compared to the Jace from game 1.
The Antara cosplay is working out very, very well thus far. Of course, Antara historically was known for his Ornn and Rumble play, as he's currently sitting on 100% on the Rumble thus far. Is now Griffin looking for this re-engage. All-in does have ultimate. You can see he's holding onto it for the moment. In fact, all ults are available across the board. As Yukal, perfect flanking position as he does pick up Mystic. Devour is fantastic though, and the exhaust is going to keep everyone alive. Horn comes in, big knockup, but only on the sword. As the Drake is taken, Irove has no stopwatch. Fate's call now for the re-engage, but unable to find Tarzan. Despite that being a decent pillar of filth, and Yukal finds himself on the wrong side of history right there as his former team takes him down. And now Afreeca move towards the outer turret, or maybe just the Baron.
Yeah, the equalizer that time around was is not very effective. We got a bunch of water-type Pokemon over here, and the fire did really not that much, and the Devour was perfect. Afreeca, you know, I was a little bit worried for them because they were all really tightly grouped up against, you know, set Rumble, which is generally not a good idea. But that amount of compactness that they had in their formation just allowed them to react perfectly to the engage. It's like they knew Yukal was coming, and immediately Mystic, you know, he gets ulted, but the immediate Devour, as you can see, the equalizer is just really not doing much at all. It takes a little bit onto all in, and nobody's able to do enough damage onto Spirit in the front. He's very tanky with the subjugate, just able to sit there and eat up so much damage. Also wins the Smite War on the Ocean Drake, putting them at Ocean Soul Point. And just a great, it was just a much better, what do you call it? They played the team fight so much better than Griffin
execution.
did. Yeah, the execution, that's the word I was looking for. Was just so much cleaner from the side of Afreeca. They looked like the better team, and they absolutely did deserve to win that team fight. So they find themselves in a very nice spot now in this game.
Yeah, we'll see whether they use that to pressure this Baron. You can see up towards this area. 24 minutes into the game certainly is a difficult time to go for a Baron, as Yukal down to half health. Keen doing some decent damage right there. As remember, this is a squad with 280 carries, one of them being more of a support, and is currently building towards his second lethality item. Most likely that Duskblade will be coming in relatively soon, unless he decides to opt in on the Edge of Night instead. Mystic chunked there by the Void Seeker. As you can see, Viper building towards the AP. And about half the health bar of Mystic, as this center is very squishy.
Thankfully, we can see the W's this time. Even more important now that he's stacking that AP. And,
absolutely.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I feel like Senna is like just the support for Tahm Kench and Kalista, the two real carries on their side, and they have such a tanky front line because it's not just Ornn. You've got the Troll, I was about to call him, the Trundle. With the Subjugate, you have Tahm Kench, who actually has gold in the front, and then you just have Kalista able to bounce around. So it's a very similar composition, but very different at the same time. They don't have hardcore engage, but they still have a whole huge front line of tanky guys with Kalista, plus Senna for like a little bit of extra damage this time around. So Afreeca seems like they're very practiced coming into today, which I really like a lot. It shows that they care a lot about, you know, hey, we're on a huge losing streak. Let's actually try to win this time around. And it's just been clean League of Legends so far today. So it definitely makes me feel good watching them play.
It is a feels good moment. You are absolutely right. I feel like Afreeca, this might actually get them on a better trajectory to get them towards even potentially a playoffs berth if Damwon continues to fall further and further down these rankings. There is a possibility, of course, Afreeca move up to 7 wins after this particular one, if they are actually able to take it, of course. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but Damwon sitting on 8-8 right now, and that will make Afreeca 7-9. And tomorrow, remember, Damwon go up against Dragon X, and that is a very dangerous matchup for them. And then Dragon X versus Afreeca, so that also is going to be rough. And then having a look at where Damwon sit after that, do they have a remaining game is the question. I believe not, as this is Afreeca evening things out. And so Damwon's final match will be against Sandbox also. So Damwon should be able to win that one. So yeah, Afreeca, it's a tough ask to get them towards playoffs, but it is certainly not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, so we do have this Ocean Drake fight about to start up as the TP is going to the mid lane. I suppose they didn't have... Well, they had some vision, but I guess he really just wanted to group up with his team. Keen playing it very safely here. And keep in mind that Griffin still have hard engage plus Viper, who is 2-0 and 4 and quite fed. So even though the game looks good for Afreeca right now, it ain't over until they get the Ocean Soul.
Well, we'll see whether they can get it soon, as it is, of course, alive. Irove down to about half health as Tarzan, maybe a little bit out of position. Yukao was thinking about making his way in. Keen down to about half. Does have decent life steal, and also has Mystic in his back pocket as well. Will be supporting his 80 carry coming from the top side. As Afreeca, they do want to be able to take this one down, and Spirit, maybe a little bit hasty, is going to start it off already. Now Griffin going for the engage. It's onto All-In, though. Not exactly a priority target, as Tarzan going to be taken down very, very low. Good equalizer this time, however, as Mystic gets himself the Dawning Shadow. All-In is still alive somehow, guys.
Oh, he got it.
And now the Ocean Soul comes in, and Afreeca should be able to just roll over the top of this Griffin roster. Flash has to be used to get Tarzan out of the way. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, Viper uses his Killer Instinct, gets over the wall. Flash from Jelly into the death chamber. But it's still going to be the Kai'Sa falling down, and All-In teleported top lane, I think. That was strange.
Yeah,
Not sure what he was doing
like,
there.
Well, he backed, I think, because he was ultra low, and then the fight was already over. So I think he just TP'd up to the top side, wanted to push for this upcoming Baron fight. And that was much closer. Well, fight with the Baron.
Yeah.
not with the Griffin. But yeah, that was much closer. All-In almost died there. It was a really great Dawning Shadows from Mystic to keep him alive. Unfortunately, Viper really wasn't able to find an angle into that fight, though, to do, backline damage. He wasn't able to do that, Kai'Sa dream, which is always like the go into the backline, be super, stealthy and fast and not get hit. As you can see here, they're, Tarzan, it was a great read by him. They're like all in. He's a little bit too far away. And Jelly doesn't want to devour All-In. I mean, that's the last thing he wants to do. So he holds on to it, and it actually ends up working out for them. So let's take a look at the smite. Spirit just straight up, able to get that one over Tarzan. Tarzan, I don't know. Was he there? It looked like maybe he was like mid-ult or something.
I don't think he was able to quite get it there, as Viper throws out the Void Seeker, and that's what it was able to pick up the kill onto Jelly immediately as he got over that wall. Yeah, I actually love the Fate's Call as well. Triple knock-up out from Spirit there, who then immediately followed up on the Rend from Keen. Obviously, the communication was certainly fantastic as we have a look at damage taken. Our junglers soaking as much damage as they possibly can in that particular team fight. And our Spirit with the King's Tribute playing into his hands very, very nicely, with Subjugate also giving him so much of his health back. Of course, Sword can keep that Morellonomicon ticking, but he needs to stay in the fight in order to do so. And right now, he's just so far behind. I know it's weird saying that about the only player on Griffin that hasn't died, but he's down 110 CS, so he is by no means in the lead. And there's an Ocean Soul, so this game's basically over.
Yeah. I said it earlier. I'm like, this game ain't over until they get the Ocean Soul. And the second they were able to, it was just like the flood of GGs probably came into the chat. As you can see now, because Afreeca were able to win that fight handily, they take the Ocean Soul, they have Baron buff now. Jelly is going to expertly waddle his way down mid lane, trying to crash this at the correct timing. He's going to be able to take out this inner turret. But not too much time left on the Baron buff, just 50 seconds.
Might be able to get a shove into the mid lane, but we'll see what Afreeca do decide to do. One siege minion is available here, as it looks like Afreeca just going to wander through the enemy jungle, move towards this top side as that minion wave is building up, and look to follow that one towards the enemy base. Keen over here, but Jelly taking his time moving on in. And Spirit finds a pillar onto the majority of Griffin. Abyssal Voyage to make sure that the Tahm-Kench is in position. As there's an equalizer once again, but that is not the one you want. That is purely defensive to try and take down the minions, but he's not able to get these siege minions that are still acting as a battering ram for the next 10 seconds. Onto this inhibitor turret, another minion wave on its way, but it's going to take a little while before it's going to get here. 2 seconds on the clock, and it might just be enough here. As Afreeca, Keen just wanders on in, we'll be able to take down the turret, and Griffin say, nope, no fight for us.
They say you've run out of Baron buff. We're only going to take one inhibitor of damage. We don't want to die and lose the game right now. Let's try to roll on Elder Drake. That's really their only chance right now, right? The Ocean Soul, I was kind of calling it over once Afreeca got it, but if Griffin get a Elder and then somehow take a fight afterwards, you know, it's not exactly the most likely thing to happen in this game, but it absolutely will be the main focus of both teams here. So we'll have to see if Viper can somehow pull off some kind of miracle. If the Equalizer can hit some key targets in the back line, plus Viper ulting, would be quite nice if you just think about their composition on paper. But still so many tanky guys in their lineup. Now
the adaptive helm now done for All In as well. I mean, that is so high value against Kai'Sa and Rumble, who are the main damage dealers here for Griffin. In fact, they're relying on purely magic damage, honestly, in order to take down Afreeca. Certainly does show that All In probably would have liked an Abyssal Mask. Still wondering about the Frozen Fist that he now has in his inventory. But can you doubt a man who is 3-0-1 on the Ornn? Has also landed some pretty fantastic ultimates so far this game.
Yeah, he's been good. All In has had a good game, which is nice to see from one of the players that doesn't really get all that much play time. You know, just having them come in and get consistent good performances is like the starting block for anyone who's, you know, not a superstar, not a faker or something like that. Yeah. You got to start somewhere. You got to start slow. That's exactly what he's doing, so it is good to see.
Oh, 3 seconds.
Yep, here we go.
Spirit needs to get into position here as Keen immediately starts off this Elder Drake. Vision going to be there for Griffin, but that control ward in the back of the pit is a good one for Afreeca. Mystic over to the side. You can see that Afreeca, they just want to start a fight here, to be perfectly honest, as Tarzan caught by the pillar. And Afreeca pull away from the Elder Drake and ask Griffin just to do that again. Because to be perfectly honest, Afreeca with an Ocean Soul triple stack, they're going to get so much of their health back so incredibly quickly. Not to mention Mystic raining down heals on top of them as well. As All In just needs to stay out of this fight. Yukal's back in base. Teleport's available, but that still has to channel, remember. As they pull the Elder out of the pit. And I don't know what Griffin are going to be able to do to get in here apart from just go for a 50-50. No vision available as they took down that control ward. Still, health bar's relatively low here. But remember, they can come back up very, very quickly if they're able to auto-attack their opponents. Now the Ornn comes in. We're trying to buy some space as another Equalizer is in a good position for Griffin. And Yukal does find his position in the backside. Mystic going to go golden, but the set is going to immediately die. It's a double kill for the Ornn as Tarzan has to go golden. Viper dives into the backline. Can he do the impossible? The answer's no, because he's so sleepy. The exhaust on top of him is going to seal his fate against the Afreeca Freecs. And now Keen says, this one's over, boys. I'm teleporting and I'm finishing this game.
Yep, game absolutely over now. Jelly Keen and All In, going all in onto the Nexus. That will be Afreeca picking up the 2-0 tonight after that play. The Equalizer was good that time, but that's what we call too little, too late. Was not able to do much, as they're even going to stick around to bully Sword a little bit more. Pick up that kill once again. Are they going to stick around for Irove? Yes, they will.
Got to pad them stats. Know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not going to be able to get him
damage.
Nexus is not going to survive for long enough, so 7,000 gold to lead in the end, and Afreeca get the 2-0. They are still alive when it comes to the playoffs race, and Griffin's hopes are all but naught when it comes to avoiding relegation.
Yeah, Griffin at this point, I believe they're 4-13 after this loss, and you'd have to imagine with multiple 0-2 losses that their indicator score, their game win-loss, is extremely down in the dumps at the same time. So unfortunately for them, you would have to imagine that relegation is in sight. Whereas Afreeca, on the other hand, picking up that 2-0, as we talk about every game, is so important. They don't drop the ball here. There was some shaky moments in the early game in the second game against Griffin, but they're able to finally bring it home as they pick up the Ocean Soul and do bring this one to the 2-0 victory and keep their playoff hopes alive.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm having a conversation with our producers. I'm just trying to figure out who to give the player of the game to. I think that this one's a little bit more difficult because, like, my body's telling me that Keen was the most pivotal player, but he also really struggled in lane and wasn't necessarily able to do things, and then was able to be a Callista as the game went on, but he wasn't necessarily good enough to pick it up. All In had some fantastic ultimates, but itemized incorrectly, but still was able to win the majority of the fights that Afreeca did win, which was good news. So I don't know, man. I'm a little bit, I'm at a loss.
Yeah, I voted for Spirit.
All right.
I feel like I might be alone on that one, but I feel like just him being able to smite every single time and just really great, consistent frontlining on the Trundle was a big difference maker in this one. I think as a team, Afreeca, as you mentioned, it's so hard to give it to just one player in this game. But
I feel like they rallied together very well towards late game.
It was absolutely one of those games where it's like all 5 players played well together. I mean, even Jelly had a great game.
Yeah, maybe it's another
bench.
one for Jelly, to be honest.
Could be.
I mean, I'd be happy. To be perfectly honest, like I don't actually mind. I'm feeling like anyone bar Mystic could pick it up here this game. I don't think Mystic necessarily had the most standout performance on his center. Otherwise, everybody else looked damn good. As All In tanking for about a bajillion years, I think is the technical amount of time. As missing a W is certainly a whoopsie. However, able to survive. 15 out of 10. I think this was definitely a phenomenal play out of Spirit, utilizing the Fate Skull that I guess was gifted over to him by Keen, but still, it was him pressing the button and aiming for where to go, so we'll give it to him, as this was Jelly being a little bit overly aggressive, so maybe it's not going to go to Jelly. But still, it's just showing that Afreeca are playing together as a team, and hopefully they feel like they have found themselves a more consistent roster.
Yep, they did look just cleaner today. As I said before during the game, they just looked like they practiced so much. And that's really the key when it comes to trying to change, when you're on this kind of losing streak and you're not really able to find any wins anywhere. Shout out to Tarzan and Viper, by the way. I think they both had really nice games in this one and just unfortunately weren't able to find the win.
I think UCal as well has been the absolute savior for this team.
Like even they tried.
Yeah, you got a 4-man facebreaker. Insane. Really impressive stuff out of UCal's. His Zoe was even okay in game number 1, but his set was fantastic in game number 2. It just sometimes you can't 1v9, and you can imagine that Keen's in the chat going, "I feel you, brother." That's been my experience over the last few weeks. So Afreeca finally get a victory in round 2, and it's exactly at the time where they needed one. As you can see, this was all about Keen doing damage, and look at how much obvious work the Ocean Drake did. Because the damage numbers are very skewed away from the winning team.
Yeah, Afreeca really didn't do that much damage. They only did what they had to secure Drakes and objectives. As weird as that sounds, they just did enough to win the fight, and that was it. Whereas, Rumble, lots of ticking damage. Tarzan, able to do consistent, I suppose, on the Rek'Sai in those team fights. And same thing
Viper
goes for
once
Viper,
again.
of course.
Phew.
Lots of
That is
poke.
big damage.
And there you go. The 2-0 victory to Afreeca, so we will be hearing from 2 of their players of the games.
Yeah, Jelly and someone, or maybe just Jelly, as we're going to find out who picks up player of the game here right now. And man, I don't know, maybe it does go to Spirit. Maybe it does go to Jelly.
I don't know. I'm very curious to see, as we said, I wouldn't be mad if it goes against Spirit or against any of these players.
I think the top 3 are super close, and I think it might come down to like a 4 votes type thing. I think this is going to be a close one.
Yeah,
as it's going to go to Keen. Okay,
Keen probably picking this one up here, even though he had a little bit of a rough early game, having the flash and then getting ganked for first blood. He still was able to follow it up with just again really consistent carry performance from the top lane, which is the glue that keeps Afreeca together.
Yep. I mean, this was a lot of damage being burst down, but I don't know. I felt like he did his job, right? And he did it very well, but I don't know whether he was necessarily the be-all and end-all carry on this team. But look, he still had a good performance. And honestly, when Afreeca in both games were playing so well as a team, you can't really argue against it.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't really one player, again, on Afreeca, whether it be Keen, Spirit, All In, Jelly, or Mystic. That was the one guy that carried it all. So do not mind this at all, that Keen does pick it up. So we will be hearing from Keen and Jelly. I'm curious to see who voted where, and I can't wait to see Jonas Strong's vote for Mystic. That's gonna
yeah, looking forward to it. No, it's going to be like you and Jonas Strong, or me and Jonas Strong is the only ones that voted for either, for like Spirit or All In.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it was a weird and wonderful game, and it was one that Griffin did actually have some moments in, right? It wasn't them rolling over and collapsing like it was in game number one. Ooh. As we do have the decider vote this time around. You were in fact the only vote for the jungle. However, we did need a tiebreaker between All In and Keen. As Jelly got no votes this game, I find that really interesting. I thought that his devours were fantastic, actually.
Yeah, he was always in the right place at the right time. It was kind of one of those underappreciated Tahm Kench games, but he was, again, the oil that made the machine go.
Yeah. I also think that, like, somehow Tahm Kench plays in the LCK are sort of like, it's bias against them because there's just been so many over the years, like the obsession. As we are going to move to the interview, so let's throw it over to Ji-sun for some translation.
Thank you very much, guys. Translation and long time no see. First MVP interview from the Afreeca players. How do you feel, guys? Me first.
일단 2라운드 들어서 저희가 경기력이 많이 안
coming into the
좋았었는데
second round robin, our performance
잘못하면
was
승전전도
really
갈 수
bad,
있었던
and we
상황에서
could
오늘 승리해서
almost
진짜
fell
다행인 것 같아요.
down to the relegation. And in this important point, we were able to finally get a win, so it feels really nice.
2라운드 들어서 이제
Yeah, coming into round 2, we were having a new record, or rather history, but finally we got a win, so it's a big relief. Yeah, I mean, because Afreeca Freecs was so promising in round 1, so it was very uncharacteristic playstyle or performance coming out of Afreeca. So Afreeca has been trying a lot of different rosters, so what was the plan in coming with this roster today? I mean, we tried to stick with one lineup, and then we tried to kind of try a lot of different lineups, and we all ended up getting bad results. So this one was the one we kind of came up to get the best result possible. Then let's move on to the game. The Jelly Star. Jelly, your Alistar was doing a lot of work, you know? Every engage was coming in clutch. Isn't it really hard to engage an Alistar right now? Well, the meta champions right now is actually really strong into Alistar, that a champion that kind of goes straight into for engage. However, our coaching staff just told me, be confident because you're good at this champion. So I said okay, and I was able to get a good result. And in several fights, you were really bold going into the fights. However, the follow-up from your teammates was really on point as well. So who makes call for fights? You or all together? Generally, when I go in first, we all make a, like, we all end up in one order. So I go in as a supporter, and then all the other players just follow. Well, the engagement from the side of Afreeca was really wombo combo, because Alistar goes in and then Galio covers with the ultimate, and then Rumble also put down the red carpet. So Korean casters were really amazed by this combo. I don't really exactly remember when was it, but whenever I had flash up, I usually go in for initiation, and then the rest of the teammates come with the follow-up CC chains. Well, Kalista top was not having a lot of success in LCK.
라인전이 센 챔프인 건 맞는데 아무래도
I mean, it is really strong in the
오늘
laning
같이
phase,
2세트에서 이제
but
제가 처음에
as you
처리
saw in game
빠져가지고
number
좀
2, I started without flash.
라인 압박을 하기 좀 어려운
So it
상황이었어가지고
was really hard for
이제
me
그런
to
상황만
put a
안
lot of pressure
나오면은
during the
저는
laning phase, but
쓸만한 픽인 것
if
같아요.
there's no accident like that, I think Kalista is a very viable champ.
그렇죠.
네. 그만큼 사실은 시도할 수는 있지만 성공하기는 어려운
So yeah, I
기회가
guess
있었거든요. 그래서
it is worth a
연습을
try,
해도
but it's really
안
hard
나올
to
것이다.
pull off a
뭐 이런
success
얘기들이 좀
out of
있었는데,
it.
일단 그 좋은 장면 쓰신 거 다시 한번 축하 말씀드리고
Finally,
그럼
Keen was
오늘은 아예
the first one to get a win on Kalista
머릿속에 좀
on
두고
top side
뱀픽이
today.
들어간 거였어요?
이제 칼리스타 같은 경우는
So
아무래도
in terms of
그냥
Kalista,
저는 재밌어서 그냥 계속 하다 보니까
it
자신감이
was
있는
just fun,
상태여서
so I kept playing it. So I was really confident on this champion. So I kept telling my coaching staff that I will be able to play it in competitive games.
연패가 이제 끊어지면서
So you guys
남은
finally
세계
stopped
경기에서
the
제가
losing
알기로는
streak.
2승을 기록하면은 일단
And if
승량전하고는
you
상관이 없고 모든 경기를 얻어내고
pick up
나머지
2
상황들을 좀
wins,
지켜보면은 더
You
좋은
will be
가능성도 이제
just
열리는
so
그런 상황이
safe
되잖아요.
away from the relegation zone, and
근데 남아있는
depending
팀이
on the
지금
situation,
GRF
you might
지원이란 말이에요.
be
좀 쉽지
able
않은
to
그런
also
대결인데
get a playoff
어떻습니까?
ticket, but your opponents will be GRX and T1.
이제 아무래도 저희가 조금
I mean,
경기력이 안 좋긴 한데
Our
이제
performance is really
마음에
bad
이제
currently,
한 가지 짐이 있었다면 그걸 좀
but
내려놓고
we
다시
finally
시작하는
was able to
기분이라서
put down a
그냥
huge
재밌게
burden
즐길
in
수
our
있을 것
hearts,
같아요.
so we will be able to kind of
어려운 걸 한번
enjoy
풀어냈습니다.
and be more
젤리 선수는
into
표정을
the
좀
game
괜찮아요.
from now on.
지금 너무 경기 잘 풀어내고 약간 우울한
Jelly,
표정을 짓고 있어서
how are you feeling? I mean, you look
아니,
so
되게
depressed.
좋았어, 오늘.
I mean, you guys were wonderful today.
아,
The Jelly Star.
예술이다.
취해도 돼요 오늘은.
네. 그래서
You
제가
guys
근데
have
이런
to
활약
deserve
앞으로
this
보여줘야 되는 거
joy of
아니었어요, 젤리 선수?
victory.
오늘 첫 세트 같은 경기력만 계속 나오면
Well, if I will be able
이제
to pull off
저희
a
잘
performance
모르는
that I
안
did
되지만
in
혹시
game number
꿈을
1,
꿔봐도 되지 않을까
maybe we can
생각하고
dream
있습니다.
about
뭐
going
젤리
into the
선수뿐만 아니라
playoffs.
지금 사실
Even when
아프리카를 응원하시는
we
정말
cannot
많은
make
팬
it by
여러분께서
with our
그런
own
꿈에
hands.
동참하기를 지금 바라고 계시거든요. 오랫동안 아프리카
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Afreeca fans are also wishing Afreeca to get the playoff spot. So, any last message for your fans?
이제 저희가 2라운드 들어서
Well,
이제
coming
좀 안
into
좋은
round
모습들을 계속
2,
많이
we were
보여드렸는데
keep
이제 그
showing
부분에 대해서는
very
저희도
bad
인지하고 정말 열심히
performance,
하고
and we
있고
are truly aware of
이제
that, and
남은
we
두
are
경기
doing really
최대한
hard.
열심히 노력해서 좋은
So we will do our best
경기력으로
in our
돌아올 테니
remaining
많이
series and
응원해
show the
주셨으면
best
좋겠습니다.
performance we can. So keep supporting us. Thank you.
이제 2라운드 들어서 연패를 이제
Yeah, in the second
드디어
round
해내고
robin, we
이제
finally
우승을
stopped
했는데
our losing streak and got our first victory, but we only have 2 series left, but we will do our best to show the best performance that we can. And I really wish to make it to the playoffs, but even if we cannot make it, we will do our best to maintain a good performance until the summer split.
승자 인터뷰를 하게 되면은 좀 뚫린 데서 했으면 좋겠어. 거기 약간 울리다 보니까
And next time when we have a winner interview, we will hope Afreeca players to have a better spacing for this POG interview on a video call. And this will be the end of the interview from Jelly Keen from Afreeca Freecs, and I'm gonna pass it back to our casters. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jisun, for your interview translation as per usual. And thank you, Valdez, for standing in for good old LS as he was... Sorry, thank you, LS, for standing in for yourself
Yes.
after you were feeling a little bit under the weather.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, sorry. I stepped out of character there just for a moment. As you can see, Afreeca now find themselves only 1 win away from Damwon. But KT still with 1 match to play also, but still sitting at 8 wins, so going to be difficult for Afreeca to eclipse either of these teams. But if KT and Damwon do some losing, then it's likely that Afreeca might be able to sneak towards a playoffs berth. We'll see whether they can do so. Also, our hearts go out to Mystic, who had some pretty horrible news just recently. And I really hope that things are going well, or as well as they can over there, and that his Afreeca family are making sure that they support him during a really difficult time. But I don't want to end it on a sad note like that, but Mystic certainly has been through a lot over the last recent few days, so certainly forgive him if he's had some upsetting performances recently, because you could imagine there are other things on his mind.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on, we do have our biggest day ever tomorrow. This is going to be gigantic. DRX versus Damwon. I wasn't expecting this to be the key matchup, but it feels like it is, as T1 versus KT is looking like a telecom war that's still well and truly T1 favored, as KT have faltered a little bit towards the end of round 2, but still a very hype matchup considering KT's form. And already we heard from Teddy and Effort that they are preparing a lot for this KT match and respect KT for the amount of work that they've been putting in. DRX versus Damwon, though, man, I am so ready for this matchup. It is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, it's pretty massive, especially at the end of the split. Every single game feels like it holds extra weight, even though, you know, it's not actually true. Every game holds the same amount of weight. It just feels like that because there's so much on the line in terms of which teams will make it and what seeds they're going to get and who's going to be knocked out and all that good stuff. So make sure you're actually you're coming in to watch us tomorrow. Me and Ellis should be back to bring you some more LCK.
Yep, and that'll do it for us for tonight. So good night, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow for that huge day. Don't miss it.
Told me to be myself and never feel alone. You're all that I want, you're all that I need. If I was ever in the dark, I'd see